I just want people to know. I mean, like, people do this all the time.
Heard those two in a screaming match in the garage, and she was just kept saying, please, Brian, please stop. I myself called the sheriff office a number of times.
She was my boss. That's how I saw her.
Every moment on set, I knew that if she was unhappy with my performance in any way, that the rest of the day was going to be ruined.
Hayden Pannettiere was very open about her struggles as a former child star, but like many instances, we never realized quite how diabolical the industry can be. Now, weeks after her sudden death, the truth is coming out, and it's worse than anyone ever knew. Let's start with Hayden's slimy ex-boyfriend, who she had been seeing on and off since 2018. Brian Hickerson abused her often, and just 3 months ago, he gave an interview to TMZ where he nonchalantly discussed his relationship with the star.
Man, I mean, I think it speaks for itself. I mean, I got arrested for, abusing her, and I wouldn't blame her friends for being pissed off at me. So, I don't really have much to say on that. We've been together for 8 years. I mean, that's a topic of conversation that came up a lot. So, I had a couple opportunities to apologize for it and reflect on it. So, I don't know. You'd have to ask her what she thinks about it. But, it's you never lay hands on a woman, bottom line. Well, coming from a former landscaper, which I was, all you gotta do is spray some Roundup.
He smiled as he called domestic abuse something everybody did and downplayed every evil deed, except for calling out her mother, who Hayden herself has called a momager, who never knew how to love her properly.
I do have some things to say about Hayden's mom. Hayden's mother is by far one of the worst people I've ever met in my life. And I just, I can't. I just can't with her. She's terrible, and I just want people to know. I mean, like, people do this all the time, It's like, you think I'm the only one that did that? No. People do that all the time. You saw Apex, right?
Yep.
Same damn thing, right? So, it's sad.
You had mentioned the chapter about you. Do you think this is an important chapter for not just survivors to read, but also for people that are abusers? Do you think it's important for both sides to be reading something like this?
I think it's more important for abusers. My biggest thing about domestic violence is I don't think it is taught early enough in life. Never in my life did I ever get taught what domestic violence was, right? Maybe if I did at an early age, maybe I wouldn't have done what I did. We don't know. But it's one of those things to think about.
You and Hayden first started dating in 2018.
Except newer details keep coming out, and neighbors revealed that they used to hear crying and screaming on multiple occasions before her death. It was bad enough that her community's HOA actually put up a notice banning Brian Hickerson from their community.
I saw her leaving on a gurney. Brian was right next to her, and I asked her if she was okay. And it looked to me that she, had suffered some type of trauma that looked to be battering, and it was clear she was terrified.
She's dead. That boyfriend wakes up in the bed and goes, "Oh, she's dead." How can that happen? And it's the same boyfriend that admits he beat her to smithereens. She got taken out on a gurney.
What he says is, if somebody had told me about domestic violence, he's trying to distance himself from domestic violence, as if he didn't do it.
And heard those two in a screaming match in the garage. And she was just kept saying, please, Brian, please stop. I myself called the sheriff's office a number of times.
It doesn't help that Brian's story keeps on changing, as though he's desperate to make himself as innocent as possible.
He claims Brian reportedly told police that at 10:30 that Sunday before Hayden died, that she was doing her makeup, and it was seemingly like any other day. They were supposed to meet up with Zach. Then Zach is unable to make contact with them, and Brian steps out to go and get something. Now, what that something is unclear. We don't know, and it hasn't been disclosed by the police. And then Brian returns to the apartment, and he somehow, we don't even know if he interacted with Hayden or not. Presumably he did. It was close quarters. And then they both somehow fall asleep for a nap. So there's really big gaps in that story, because when he comes back from that errand run, what happened there? Did they have a conversation? Did they do some drugs together? That information we don't know yet.
And it keeps getting worse and worse, because Brian also pawned off some of Hayden's belongings, essentially stealing them right from under her nose. At the time, Hayden herself was left shocked, even though she stayed with him anyways.
Hayden's mom said she became alarmed that Brian Hickerson, who reportedly filed for bankruptcy in 2022, had pawned some of Pannettiere's belongings, including a vintage guitar. The New York Times also said they independently verified this information through their own source. Vogel also told the New York Times that Pannettiere herself appeared shocked when she found out that some of her belongings were in Hickerson's storage unit. Vogel said that her and Hayden would eventually have a falling out in part over her attempt to keep Hickerson out of her daughter's life and finances. And at the time of Pannettiere's death, the New York Times says that Pannettiere and her mom had been estranged for months.
Her mother leaked that police had implied that there would be a further investigation into Brian Hickerson's role in her death, especially since he was the only one present at the scene in the hours leading to her passing.
Now, in an interview that Vogel did with the Daily Mail, she also had this interview published over the weekend. Vogel claimed that she spoke with a police officer at the scene of Hayden Pannettiere's death, and she asked if there would be a further investigation. And Vogel claims the officer brought up Brian Hickerson's name, and Vogel allegedly told the officer she thought that he would be culpable. Now again, no charges have been filed in this case, and Brian Hickerson has not been accused of any wrongdoing. Vogel also told the Daily Mail that she found Brian's timeline of events to be, quote, full of holes, including when he allegedly found Pannettiere unresponsive. Now, Vogel said, quote, I don't know how you can take a nap near someone who is dying and not realize something's wrong. How do you do that?
Experts say that verifying the timeline, particularly from May when she released her memoir, is important in confirming what actually happened.
I'm going to look at this May time period pretty closely here, because in May, she had come out, she's talking about all of these challenges that many of us wouldn't have the intestinal fortitude to admit about our lives, where our lives have taken this wrong turn or a sad turn. And here she is being strong and admitting these things, talking about a contentious, difficult, challenging relationship with her mother, with these addiction issues, with domestic violence. Days before Hayden died, we know that there was a hearing where Brian's sobriety was brought up and questioned at this hearing. And then just a matter of days later, when she goes from people keeping Brian away from her, here she is traveling with him across the country, and then she's dead. So I want to be taking a look at a lot of things, and timeline's a big one.
After all, reports Hayden herself wrote have revealed the chilling extent of the abuse she suffered at Brian's hands.
In Hayden's own handwriting, that reveals chilling new details about the abuse she says she suffered at Hickerson's hands in 2020. Brian snaps, generally when alcohol is involved. He pulls my hair, swings me around, and hits me, spits in my face, has dumped water over me while I'm in bed. He has thrown objects at my face. She points out that she's 5'2" and 125 pounds, while Hickerson towers over her at 6'2" and 175 pounds. It's signed Hayden Pannettiere. But we're now learning that when she signed books at the Barnes & Noble store in Manhattan last May during her national promotional tour, she had bodyguards with her who reportedly were given strict orders. Do not let in a man named Brian Hickerson. keep him away. And yet, they were together in Greenville, South Carolina.
And they had that infamous fight out in public that was a good indicator of what their relationship was like. If this is how his attitude could be in public, how much worse was it in private?
What he's done in the past, because this is the exact same Brian.
Go home! Go home! Come on, leaders, back over here, Rob. Look at this. Get up! Get up! Back up! Everyone back up! Oh, I'm ready for round. Let's go. You also, bitch!
That dude, like...
I know, I'm sorry. I cried.
Mia Terrazas, Hayden's neighbor, said the star often seemed subdued when her boyfriend was around, and the abuse seemed consistent rather than an occasional thing.
Going to the trash or things of that nature. And, it looked like she would have a hard time getting around sometimes, or again, appeared to have injuries or things that don't normally happen to people frequently.
Yeah. Wow. What kinds of injuries did you see on her?
Just, what looked to be like bright red spots or bruises or, a lot of times she seemed to be suffering from back pain. She told me that she had an incident when she was a child on set. She had fallen off a zebra or something and hurt her back. But I saw her with, something on her hand, and it just wasn't, it seemed like that may be part of it, the back injury, but it just seemed like the bruises or the redness or, she did what she could to cover them up.
Which brings us to the other proverbial culprit in her death, which is none other than Hayden's own mother, Leslie Vogel. A failed soap opera actress herself, she was obsessed with her daughter's career when she was a child star that started working at 14 months old. Since her daughter's death, she has been giving interview after interview, mostly calling her daughter druggy and polite words.
How are you doing? It's a process, and I think it will probably hit me later on. I would say to the haters out there, you don't have a right to tell me how I mourn the loss of my second child. That's my domain. I was numb. I was just numb. I just couldn't feel anything. I still am not grasping this is real. It just doesn't feel real. My mind tells me it's not at times. It's going to be a process. I need a minute, guys.
Yes.
Since she herself wasn't of much help anyway, Leslie claimed that Brian took advantage of Hayden when she was in a very dark time in her life, especially considering she had just given up custody of her only child.
The situation with Hayden and Vlad and their daughter, that was a very difficult period for her. Vlad had taken over custody, for safety. In my opinion, that was the catalyst that she just couldn't keep those demons away. I think she struggled, and Brian came into her life. She was vulnerable. This is one of my faves. This is from In the Limousine on the way to the premiere of A Bug's Life.
Leslie sharing several photos of Hayden's early life with us.
You said people don't know the truth about your and Hayden's relationship. What was the truth about your relationship?
I would say Hayden had a very happy life up until she got Heroes at 16.
Leslie even tried to spin Hayden's issues with her controlling nature in her favor, saying that she hadn't said anything to her daughter, but bowed out gracefully.
That she didn't want Vogel to manage her career anymore, and Vogel replied, "You owe me." Vogel remembers that moment, but says her version doesn't match Hayden's.
I remember being in her trailer and literally saying nothing. I knew that day would come. It's not that I didn't expect it, but it was very short, very brief conversation, and then she turned and went to set.
Did it hurt to read that in the book?
I know I didn't say what she said I said.
Their relationship wasn't always completely tense, and there was a time Hayden looked up to her mother as she had gotten her love of acting from her.
She taught me everything I know.
and she's gonna start crying, I know. She's been my acting coach. You know, she's been a guidance and somebody who's pushed me to keep my eye on what I love to do, has made me who I am. So I gotta thank her for everything.
She seems to me to have such a great head on her shoulders, and she credits you for that.
I'm proud of her.
How much behind the scenes wrestling do you guys do?
Oh, plenty. Absolutely plenty. I'm not gonna say we don't. You have your mother-daughter relationship. You know, obviously you're gonna have ups and downs. Hayden will get upset with me about saying something, and I'll say to her, that's my job. As your mom, that's my job. She knows. She's very smart. I'm proud of her. I think she's great.
Don't cry.
But it soured when Leslie was unwilling to give up control. Hayden has eventually spoken about how she could never see her mother as more than a boss because she always acted like one.
She was my boss. That's how I saw her.
Every moment on set, I knew that if she was unhappy with my performance in any way, that the rest of the day was going to be ruined.
Yes. While promoting her book on CBS Mornings, The Tamron Hall Show, and Jay Shetty's On Purpose podcast, Hayden spoke about the intense pressure she felt from her mom beginning at a young age.
We spent a lot of time traveling and on the road together, so I became the confidant and the assistant and the therapist and the shoulder to cry on and everything but her child.
You wanted a mom.
Mm-hmm.
When you finally said, listen, we can't work together this way, you write about her response. You said she told you, you owe me.
Word for word, that's the only thing that came out of her mouth.
I desperately wanted a relationship with her, and the fact that it seemed like she didn't care to have a relationship with me was a tough pill to swallow.
Her situation wasn't helped by her drug addiction, which relapsed over and over again despite her going to rehab at some point. While investigations are underway, reports revealed she was also taking a whopping 9 different prescription medications at the time of her death as well.
I can be overly trusting, if anything. I want so badly to see the good in people.
I was rooting for Hayden to beat the addiction that she spoke about openly.
That's the director of one of Hayden's final films, the 2025 horror comedy, A Breed Apart.
What I saw on my own set, somebody fighting to stay sober who deserved better company around them. I stayed in touch with her team, and what eventually got determined was that she might need an intervention. That intervention did not happen, at least not that I'm aware of.
Not to mention the earlier inconsistencies in their story, which made it seem as though Brian was in a separate room when Zach Hickerson, Brian's brother, first arrived.
Or they got Narcan that day. I also didn't know that they were in the same pull-out couch.
Right, because the way that when the statement came out from the police
Attorney.
who really the way
she
they
was in a
described it,
chair,
she was in a chair
and he was in a bedroom.
He was in the bed.
But they were together. But the fact that they had Narcan there, and it's all aligning with that she was having struggles, that there was an intervention they had talked about the year before, it's starting. The picture is starting to become clear.
Posts and a ton of speculation on social media that the Narcan, people believed the Narcan was used by the brother on his brother Brian, and that Hayden, they didn't have any Narcan left to use on her. So there's just been all these theories that the brother saved his own brother's life and that Hayden was kind of left to pass away.
There's also speculation over the repeated use of the word nap, which implies that Hayden was still alive at night and only passed away sometime in the morning.
When did Hayden die?
Yeah.
Right. You know, it
because
may have
Brian's
been,
laying in bed next to her and
she
doesn't
could have
know.
died the night before.
But also,
we don't
though,
know.
it does say that they were taking a nap on the pull-out couch. So it almost seems like she was conscious
how would he know
in
whether
the
it was a
morning.
nap or they were asleep? How would he know that?
Well, it didn't say, but it didn't
That's why
say
he's
anything
describing it as a
about
nap.
like that they were asleep in the night before and that he came and that's where they were.
Well, he doesn't say. The only thing I say, Charlie,
like it's a lunch nap.
the only thing I'll say is he doesn't say anything about what had happened the night before or where they were.
I mean, they could have gone to bed at 5 in the morning and just started sleeping until 1.
Because Zach is staying in a separate place from where
That's
they
right.
were.
Yeah. So we don't know.
He wouldn't know what happened.
At the end of the day, Madeline Zima, one of Hayden's closest friends, wants Hayden to be remembered for the wonderful person she was.
I stayed over at her house one time, and I think we watched The Land Before Time. I think that's the last time. So I thought about that, and just her sweetness. She was so loving and fierce and had a real sense of what was right and wrong. She cared about people and she cared about animals, and I just remembered her sense of fun and joy and her brightness. I mean, I think just being a human being is very difficult. I think, Hayden deserves enormous credit for speaking openly about postpartum at a time when women are not given permission to be honest and say, work on protecting marine life, and she used it to protect the people she worked with. She really took care of me on that set. Some people use their power for good, and she was one of those people, or she tried to,
She cautioned people against using her darkest chapters for attention or as an indicator of her as a person, because despite her struggles, she was a wonderful person.
I think the people who loved her and were fans did understand her. I understand why people are interested in the darker parts of her life, because all of us are struggling with something. I would just caution against turning someone's darkest chapters into the most interesting things about them. Hayden was a human being and a beautiful, kind, brilliantly talented human being. I wish people would just see those parts of her and be dignified enough about it to hold all those truths together. You can struggle and also be a champion to all the people who need a voice.
What do you think? Was Brian Hickerson behind her death, or does her past, like her mother, play a bigger role in her death? If you want to learn more, don't forget to like and subscribe for more.